Today, in fact, marks a historic day for our country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated its first regional rapid transit system train. The inauguration of the train took place at Modipuram Depot. This is in Meerut in Uttar Pradesh. What this RRTS corridor that has been launched today, it is called Namo Bharat, reduces the time to travel between Meerut and Delhi to 12 minutes. It used to take 33 minutes earlier to travel between these two destinations. It reduced to a dramatic 12 minutes. Now, that's the kind of transformation that we have been wanting to happen in our country when it comes to infrastructure, rail infrastructure, road infrastructure, sea infrastructure and air infrastructure. And this is the kind of push Prime Minister Narendra Modi made several years ago with billions of dollars that had been pumped into this project. This is one of the first corridors that has been launched. There are several others in the pipeline and they are rapidly being built to allow for easiest commute, fastest commute, and therefore the ease of living in our country and in our tier 2, tier 3 cities also improves. Sudhanshu Mani, who is the retired GM of Indian Railways and the creator of Vande Bharat Express, on the telecast with me. Mr. Mani, you know, another feather in our cap, it was Delhi Metro that heralded this entire journey of fast trains, convenient commute. Then it was the turn of Vande Bharat, and now we have Namo Bharat.
You're right. So this is a major development and it will help the commuters of capital region undoubtedly. What is also remarkable is that this project has been, unlike so many others, we will not go into them, has been completed at a very fast pace. As you know, the DPR was approved somewhere in, I think, 2017, and the foundation stone was laid in 2019. After that, we had a couple of years of COVID. Still, a major part, 17 kilometers, has been opened today, which is a very good progress in my opinion. And as you said, apart from this corridor, two other in phase 1 are in the pipeline. And this is going to be transformational for the commuters in and around Delhi.
Why do you think, sir, it has taken this long for a semi-fast train to then be built, high-speed trains, you know, to come up and allow for these distances to be reduced to such dramatic levels?
So your question is, why has it taken so much time?
Yeah, why has it taken? Do you think the time was right now? Could we have started it before? Or do we now have the infrastructure and the prowess and the resources to finally achieve it, finally make the dream true?
So yes, so one of the reasons, you know, Indian Railways and allied system, this is not under Ministry of Railways, it is with Ministry of Urban Development and funding from state governments. I would say Indian Railways and railway system as a whole has received massive investment since 2014. It has gone up from 40,000-50,000 crore to 2.62 lakh crore. Because the government believes that railways finances in isolation need not be viewed, because it's good for economy. Railways finances are not good at all. The operating ratio is around 100. But overall benefit for the economy in terms of manufacturing, services, tax revenue, employment, it has so many benefits. So, because of this massive investment and push from the government, this has been made possible. There's no doubt about it. So, there are many questions. As we go along, we can talk about it, whether it should be in this gauge and so on. There are many questions, but overall, it's a very good step.
Absolutely. It's also the perception that the world has of India. And when there is public infrastructure, the likes of ones traveling from one part of the city to the another part of the city, or even to towns and to villages. And we see that European rail or Japanese rail or Chinese rail has already accomplished all that. And now it's the turn for India to showcase its own pride and merit in terms of how its infrastructural prowess is coming up to speed, is coming at the level playing field of international arena. A situation would then permit for the world to look at India with a different lens?
Oh yes, that's right, undoubtedly, because the infrastructure is a primary requirement, and if you have poor infrastructure, it means you're not up there and investments won't come. But I would add a caveat. It should not become a fad. I stay in Lucknow, you come here, and the metro here has no support services. I mean, you don't take the metro because once you get down to the metro, you don't know what public service you can take, so you prefer to use your car. So it should be an overall landscape which must be watched, and sometimes because of this fact that part is missing. But it's not a question of talking. It's not the time for talking about that negativity. All that can be discussed as.
Okay.
Yes, it's a good step.
Okay, all right. Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya also on the telecast with me. Dr. Bhattacharya, now, when Prime Minister unveiled the Gati Shakti program, the initiative, billions and billions of funds that are at this point of time being infused into this project, and RRTS or Namo Bharat is one amongst the many of these projects that have been completed. They are on the anvil. Some of them are under construction. Some of them have been completed. So the overall picture that India is going to then have in building connectivity is also going to impact trade.
Of course, we had a handicap of about 17% because of logistics, which was a combination of the kind of taxes we had, which got fixed with GST being brought in. But there's also the whole road infrastructure and regulatory and non-regulatory hindrances that are there. And the RRTS is a piece of the entire puzzle, and it's a great step forward. And as Mr. Mani said, we should not be indulging in the negativities of it. Yeah. But keep in mind that there is much more work to be done before and after this absolutely stunning engineering achievement that we have had. We should also pursue the advantage we have of creating the first 17 kilometers and therefore going ahead and finishing it. But some of the enabling factors that have allowed us to come this far is also because the government has switched into a whole of government approach, where multiple ministries and departments are actively working together much more cohesively than what it was earlier. I think that's been a huge difference, which is what has allowed such an ambitious project to be completed within effectively, I would say, 3 years, because 2 of the years was spent in COVID. The other key point is that the focus has been on human comfort. Till now we have been looking at transportation of people and transportation of cattle as not two different issues. The way people were getting transported on the same stretch in crowded buses, we have moved away from that concept to the concept of treating humans as humans and giving them a proper travel condition so that they can move from point A to point B and then get down and start working rather than feeling tired. Yep. So with kind of an infrastructure, one can actually come down from one city to another city, work and go back the same day.
Absolutely. Also, Jayajit, the importance of RRTS cannot be emphasized more. Here you have the metros that actually function in the NCR, function in Lucknow, function in the capitals of the country. And there you have RRTS that is then going to join the tier 2, tier 3 cities with the metro. So this is in conjunction with this entire connectivity project that will allow for professionals, people, students, everybody to travel in an infrastructure which is no longer going to be dilapidated, those broken down buses without any AC, although there is progress being made over there as well. But then you have various routes. So all your, you have a huge population. So the population can then be segregated into the various modes of transport and equally comfortable transport that is being provided.
Absolutely. And, the point that you are making, and I was adding to it, is that it's creating a large urban conglomerate. So no longer is a conglomerate or the urbanization limited to just the NCR area. Now from, Delhi to Meerut, the entire area will be urbanized. There'll be huge impact on the areas that are being covered by this particular train. And therefore, the economic, return on the increase in the real estate value will be significant. And that increase is driven by economic activity happening. that economic activity is being enabled or will be enabled by this train or the set of trains that are coming up. And it's not just limited to Delhi, it will be coming up in South and around Bangalore and so on and so forth. So this is just the beginning of a very long journey. And as you were indicating, this is something that should probably been done 10 years earlier, but better now than never.
Absolutely. Let me also get in one more panelist into the conversation with us. I have with me Himanshu, but Himanshu, this situation when it comes to making our public infrastructure so strong that people will be dissuaded to use private vehicles to the least. And this will also then impact the levels of pollution that then cause a lot of grief for people in the country.
I don't know whether other panelists have said this, but first thing I'll say is, making people travel with dignity. I'm using the word dignity. That is very important. And this sort of, these advancements will go a long way in doing that. And as far as the pollution and other things are concerned, see, the progress you make, you invent things. And when you invent things, you minimize those damages to the environment. And that is what is the right technology. We have taken a vow. Today, if you see in solar energy, we are number one in the world. If you see it that way. Then when I compare it with, that old song of Ashok Kumar, Rail Agadi. See, from that time, maybe you said, 10 years ago it should have been done. I feel it should have been done 35 years ago. And with 140 crore people, today when you see the figure, you'll be astonished. It may have increased also, but what I know of is, today daily 2 crore people travel by Indian Railways every day.
Yeah.
2 crore Indian Railways. And when we talk of the other commuters, the branches, auxiliary branches, this is the auxiliary branches we have started developing now after Vande Bharat. So what I foresee in future is, people giving up their private vehicles, a lower middle class or a middle class, a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, and using this public transport is going to be more and more comfortable for him and less taxing on environment.
No, absolutely. No, exactly the mindset at this point of time is, you go by bus or you go by train. It's also a matter of status. You'd rather take your car, even though you might get stuck in jams for the 2 hours till the time you're wanting to travel from one place to another. Such a mindset is not very visible when you go to Europe or when you go to America, because the standard form of travel is train in Europe particularly, or for that matter when you take the subways in America and you will be taking those underground trains. So that mindset has to be changed, and it can only happen, like you said, if there are going to be first class services that are going to be provided to the people, and therefore you see the impact. Yeah, and that's how you'll see the impact. Again, okay, getting in, I have with me another guest, Sadanand Pawar. He's also on the telecast with me. Sadanand, this is an overall all-encompassing effort that has been initiated, that has been made by the BJP from the time of 2014 when the Prime Minister came to be elected, whether it is about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, whether it is about providing LPG to the women, whether it is about toilets, whether it is about housing, roads, infrastructure. We were yesterday talking about the Sagar Mala, which is part of the Global Maritime Forum that was taking place in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi ended up, demarcating about 40 to 50 crore rupees for the construction of the terminals and ports, particularly in Gujarat, where the IMEC project is going to start. So while one is on a very micro level, we see at RRTS, which is very regional and is going to connect people from regional towns into the national capital region, and therefore, and then you take a look at the other parts of the country as well, where these RRTS projects are undergoing, they are ongoing, and then to the national level where highways are being built, and then Vande Bharats are being launched, and then you further look at the international level where the ports are being developed to help allow for port logistics to be important for our country in building import-export prowess, and thereby saving our money, saving our resources, and then adding it to the GDP.
Yes, certainly I would say only one thing after I heard about the other panelists. Change is the only permanent thing for a country like Bharat, or rather I would go to extent of saying change is the only permanent thing for the entire globe. Having said so, we have a lot of good news which are available with us to showcase to the entire world. In the last 9 or 10 years, a country like Bharat has seen an extraordinary development. Thank you to this dynamic government. We have seen a very successful landing of Chandrayaan. We have seen a very successful G20 forums across the country. We have seen 5G getting into our country. There are more than 100 medals for the first time for a country like Bharat in Asian Games. There is IOC where Mrs. Nita Ambani is going to be part of it. Her initiative over the last 6 years has given us a lot of fruits. So these developments for a developing nation like Bharat are essentially required in order to have the comprehensive utility for the common man in terms of the logistic or the transportation. Now, transportation, be it rail, be it air, be it road, be it water, on all fronts, if you have looked at the progression of this current government, it has given an ultra extraordinary remark in terms of its speed in order to get this transportation in place. Now, any country, if it is necessarily has to translate from a developing nation to a developed nation, the infrastructure is the most important parameters to have a global economy attracted towards us. And this is the only reason why a lot of FDIs are coming not only in infrastructure but elsewhere also across all the business sectors. So as Dr. Bhattacharya said, there is going to be a huge opportunity not only in the real estate market but supporting industries like retail, logistics, the manufacturing, the trading up, the transportation. You name any such industry, every industry is going to have a benchmark of getting the new and new employments towards the youngsters, which is the necessity of the country. And the most important is that now Class B, Class C and Class D towns are going to get developed. Now, initially the focus by and large for the first 6 decades for the earlier governments were predominantly cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Kolkata. We haven't heard more than 5-6 cities. Now we talk about more than 28-30 cities where one can have a business setup very comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All the fair points made. All the fair points made there. Again, coming back to Sudhanshu Mani. So, shall we just now take a look ahead of what India is going to be by 2047, and have we really finally been able to lose the image of our villages and towns where there would be tangas and goda gadis and bel gadis?
So very good question, and let me pick up something from what Dr. Bhattacharya said and later Mr. Bhatt also. I'll come to other things. So as the leader of Vande Bharat project, sometimes people ask me that you have created a train for the privileged. What about the common man? And I am hard pressed for answers. So RRTS is fine, but here also the fare structure is 5 times more than Indian Railways. Look at Indian Railways and how the common man travels on Indian Railways today. Somebody, Dr. Bhattacharya said cattle, and Mr. Bhatt talked of dignity. Absolutely. The cattle class, and they travel without dignity, and that's a fact even today. So we have to first address that, because if we are going to be a developed country, which I believe we would be before 2047, We cannot have people traveling like they do in our general compartment. What are we doing about that? Today, they don't have money in the pocket to travel in AC comfort. Give them that comfort today. Don't charge them that fare. Tomorrow, when they have 3 to 4 times money in their pocket, when India is developed, they'll be able to afford it, but we must prepare for it today. That's very important, number one.
Okay.
As for other things, just 30 seconds more. As for other things, I would like to see the 600, 700 kilometer distances connected by day train, high-speed trains. We are going to have one between Mumbai and Ahmedabad. High speed means truly at 300, 350 kilometers per hour. And there are many surveys done, but I would think at least 3-4 more should be done quickly, number one. Number two, we should have, and the government has already planned, 500 Vande Bharat trains in next 5 years. That's the aim, and it would happen by the speed by which it is happening. It has already transformed. That will really transform the face of travel for the privileged as well as less privileged class. About less privileged people, I've already talked about.
Absolutely.
And we are going to have 50 cities with metros. Some of them not very justified, but nevertheless, it's going to happen. 20 cities already have metros.
Yeah.
So that is going to change the face of Indian railways.
Dr. Bhattacharya, then quickly a closing comment from you. Where we were, where we have reached, and where are we aspiring to achieve the goals that we have set out for us?
You know, it reminds me that when the Vajpayee government started building the highways after probably 5,000 years, because what Sher-Shah Suri did was basically build up the Uttar Patha. So for 5,000 years, we had only Uttar Patha and no other, and Dakshin Patha and no other highway. And when it was being built, what we would keep hearing is that ye to India mein nahi hota hai. This cannot happen in India. These things don't happen in India. So I think the biggest change that is happening is breaking that mindset that we cannot have high-speed trains, we cannot have bullet trains, we cannot have semi-high-speed trains, we cannot have high-quality trains. I think that is one large change. And as I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This helps in pushing. This is a tipping point. It helps in pushing and steamrolling a fast deployment of infrastructure. And along with it, the point is that 70% of India's GDP comes from cities, from urban centers. And therefore, it's important to have such infrastructure to join the urban sector so that our GDP actually accelerates. And it's connecting regional hubs to large metros, which means there is massive urbanization that is getting, which will all lead to a further acceleration of our GDP.
Okay, all right. Himanshu, quick closing comment. Now, is this, are we seeing a developed India on the anvil? We've already, we are the 5th largest, but to be the 5th largest in all true sense, it is invariable that we have world-class infrastructure.
This world-class infrastructure, I'll just give you a simple example. What, 14%, 16% logistic cost, exports material? Right now, we need to bring it down to 6 to 8%. How are we going to do it? With a world-class railway, world-class highways, and world-class ships and navigation systems. See, it's very simple. It's very nice to set a target and work for it is another thing. We are actually achieving goals much before the time. If you see the governmental deadlines, which has been set by the upper echelons of this BJP government, they have set certain targets and they want to see 2027 at a certain place. We want to be developed at a certain place. As Mr. Mani said, very rightly, 50 Vande Bharat, 500 Vande Bharats in 5 years' time. It will happen. I had never thought. I am staying in a city which is right in between Ahmedabad and Mumbai. We were not given importance.
Yeah.
About trains, all right. But then what happened was, the moment you had a Vande Bharat, not a single seat goes vacant.
Yeah. Okay.
The travel time, which was 4 hours, 5 hours, comes up to 2 hours.
Yeah. There was a point being made by Sudhanshu Mani, the steeper cost of the RRTS, or we talk about Vande Bharat and all. I also feel that, the purchasing power of an average Indian is also
Increasing slowly, yes, it will
and
take time.
it is going to be a progression here on. So I wonder how much of a problem it is going to be, particularly for those who are from much lower, below the poverty line, and those criteria, those poverty lines are also being at this point of time moved around, where number of people who have been brought out of poverty line has increased over the years. All right, Sadanand, quickly, a last closing comment before I wrap up.
What we have seen, the beauty of this present government is that, particularly for this particular project, there has been women empowerment, right from your driver to the entire series of people working out over there are women. So certainly a nation like Bharat requires that kind of empowerment, and perhaps in the whole of Asia, after Singapore, Hong Kong and other developed nations, Bharat is the first country to give the opportunity almost 50% between the males and females towards the empowerment. This will certainly give us a tremendous economic boost, not only in terms of the logistic, but in other areas of business. The overall infrastructure, the overall development of the nation is purely dependent on hundreds and hundreds, the way all of the panelists have said. This will be a very much useful in terms of having a comfort zone and feel good factor, which is the most important thing in any travel, wherever we go.
Right.
So that is
absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I'm completely out of time, but I thank all of you for joining me on this telecast and sharing your views.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.